Good morning, everyone. I am going to call this meeting of the Board of Directors, the regular meeting of the Board of Directors, to order at 9 a.m. on May 28th. We will have a roll call now. Deborah?
Certainly. Hildreth?
Here.
Bentley?
Here.
Selden?
Here.
Byram?
Here.
Hamachi?
Sorry. Here.
Okay. Spence?
Here.
Ruvalo?
Here.
Warren?
Here.
Yang?
Here.
And Matheson?
Here.
Okay.
Members are entitled to speak during the designated open forum portion of this meeting, whether attending in person or via Zoom. Each speaker is limited to 2 minutes. If speaking on behalf of another member, additional instructions provided on the forum slips must be followed. All speakers must clearly state their full name and Rossmore address before beginning their comments. Please be advised that this meeting is being broadcast and recorded. By attending and participating in this meeting, including during the open forum, each attendee agrees to and releases the Rossmore Walnut Creek from all liability for their voice and/or likeness being recorded and broadcast for any lawful purpose without compensation. Thank you.
Just to make sure, if anyone who has arrived and wants to speak and has not completed a speaker's card, they're right over here and you can give them to our secretary. Now we'll move on to approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of October 30th. April 30th, excuse me, and the organizational meeting of May 11th, 2026. Are there any additions or changes to the minutes?
Nope.
Okay, we'll accept the minutes as prepared. And now we'd like to welcome Matt Francois, our Walnut Creek City Council member liaison, to give us his report.
Excellent. Good morning, Chair Hildreth and members of the board. Matt Francois. I have the privilege and honor of serving you on the Walnut Creek City Council. I'm currently the mayor pro tem this year, and just had a good breakfast meeting with the city manager and Mayor Wilk, and talking about the updates and events happening around town. We've had a busy May, and so I'll give you an update, maybe starting in reverse order. We had a very successful Memorial Day event on Monday. That's an annual event that the city puts on. We have Memorial Day and Veterans Day. And at our Memorial Day event, our keynote speaker was Colonel Carl Davis, who was an Army commander who was in charge of special programs and managements on many continents throughout the world. He served both in active military and then in the Guard, and now is doing, had ended his career working on, in the private sector, working on projects like the Transbay Terminal and for various different school projects in and around the Bay Area. So honored to hear from him about his service, his sense of commitment, and the historical ties that he raised in terms of our devotion is more than just to a party or to a particular position, but it's to the principles of our Constitution. And it was wonderful to get that reaffirming message. We had each of the council members, including Mayor Wilk, who gave a very poignant reminder of his father, who was in active duty for the Coast Guard, were able to talk about what Memorial Day meant to them. And for me, I shared a story of being able to meet Jake Larson, who was actually landed on the beaches at D-Day. He was at our Memorial Day event last year at the young age of 102, and it's not often you get to shake someone's hand and not just thank them for their service, but thank them for saving democracy. So talking about kind of their bravery, their courage, and their commitment to preserving that was meaningful to me. So very nice event. In terms of the business meetings, we had at our May 5th meeting, we awarded grant funds towards an affordable housing project on Sierra Drive, which is near the downtown area. It's called Sierra Gardens. And basically, the funds come in from private housing developers and commercial developers are required to pay fees for affordable housing. And so the city collects those monies and then goes out for competitive bids for projects, and they have to go through the process and to be awarded the funds. And this project, because of where it was in getting its approvals and securing other fund sources, was high on the list. We also adopted an updated safety element. So that is part of our general plan, and a key part of that is emergency preparedness, earthquakes, wildfires, flooding, a lot of climate-related changes that we're trying to plan for and prepare for. So we've taken action on adopting that plan, and dovetailing with that, at our May 19th council meeting, we made some adjustments and amendments to our fiscal year 2027 budget so that we can fund a permanent position for an emergency preparedness manager. The city had that position previously, and due to COVID, the person retired and the position hasn't been backfilled since then. We at the city view emergency preparedness as a very important component, and so we've now allocated the funding to recruit and hire for that position as a full-time position in the city. I think that'll be an important person to, as a liaison for Rossmore on wildfire safety and evacuation preparedness and things like that. We also funded additional library hours at the downtown library. The county provides 40 hours a week of 40 hours a month. I'm sorry, no. 40 hours a week. Yes, I had to do my math there in real time. I'm a history major. 40 hours a week of library services funded by the county. The city had traditionally paid for 12 additional hours at both libraries. Walnut Creek has 2 libraries, Ignacio Valley and downtown. We can go up to 16 extra hours, and the Ignacio Library is about to go through major renovations and will be closed for a period of likely 8 months to do HVAC, new roofing, things like that. And in light of that, we said, let's keep the downtown library open the full 56 hours a week, so that, because it's likely going to see additional patrons there, and so we want that to be open a little bit longer. That was kind of our budget update. We recognized Jewish American and Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Months this month. We received an update from our staff on the City Council priorities, which, as you'll recall, are economic development, environmental sustainability, general plan update, park and recreation facilities, and public safety. And we also, let's see, one item that I wanted to call to your attention is that the city has voted to adopt a resolution to put on this November ballot the question of whether or not the city treasurer position should be appointed instead of elected. The city treasurer position by state law can't be appointed or elected. The default is an elected position, but the city council can ask the voters if they would allow that to be an appointed position. Ron Casano is currently the city treasurer of Walnut Creek, and he's been the treasurer since the mid-90s. He's had a great long run, and he's prepared to serve again. But it's really more of a succession planning type item in terms of, and honestly, most of the budget and fiscal information is done by very qualified staff at the city, and then by consultants that the city retains to make investments, and that's all. I'm happy to know, and you'll be happy to know, that's all regulated. It can't be speculative. It has to achieve a certain return and things like that. So most of it is done by professional staff anyway, and it seems that this position could be assumed within our financial services staff. So that will be a question on your November ballot that you'll be asked. In terms of sort of more fun things going on, there's Jagged Little Pill is a musical that's opening on May 31st. It's based on the music of Alanis Morissette and should be a fun, good show that's starting soon. We're Tickets can be purchased on the Lesher Center website. I think I've mentioned previously, but I want to put in a plug again, that the Bedford Gallery, their docents are doing public art walking tours, and they take place the third Saturday of the month at 10 a.m., and they run through November, and those are a 1-hour commitment, pay what you can, and you learn about, and there's 4 different tours, so you learn about kind of the public art that's put in and around downtown. And the folks that do that are really fun, including Jane Emanuel, who's a Rossmore resident who's very dedicated to that. And then finally, I wanted to mention that the mayor and other city officials will be hoisting the pride flag in front of City Hall on June 1st at noon. And everyone is welcome to attend. And that's my update. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, first of all, congrats on those extra library hours.
Yes.
Thank you for that good news. Do we have any questions? Go ahead, Ted.
Just one question. One thing I noticed, and you mentioned this a while ago, and I haven't heard anything in Walnut Creek, so you must be doing a really good job on it, is when there was a group of kids together going in a parking lot on their little electric bikes, and causing some problems. But as I notice, and I see things for the electric bikes, they seem to be concentrating on how they can go faster. And the other day I was walking down the street here, and a guy came by me on an electric bike right down Tice, and I don't know how fast it's going because the speed thing that we have set up was just flashing slow down. There was no speed.
He was going too fast.
Well, I got that, but who knows how fast it's going. Is there going to be, or has there ever been a thought of regulation of what the size of the batteries could be on these to control the speed? Because if you get a younger person doing that on a street or on a sidewalk at that kind of speed, that to me looks like there could be something in the future to happen.
There definitely are speed limits on the e-bikes. I don't want to misquote them. I know if you're on like the Iron Horse Trail, you have to abide by the 15 mile per hour speed limit on that trail. On streets, it can't. Where we are in terms of a regulation standpoint is that our assembly member has a bill to require that e-bikes be licensed so that there can be enforcement of the rules that exist on the books in terms of the speed limits and whether you're the right age to be on the right e-bike. What the city's done in the meantime is an e-bike safety program put on by our police department, and they've really tried to make the rounds and do an education campaign and really alert parents to Class 3 bikes, for instance, which are like e-motorcycles. If you can't ride that unless you can't own it or ride it unless you're 16 years old or older and have a license. So wanting to make sure that parents are educated and aware that they shouldn't be, it sounds like a good idea, but we don't want to give kids bikes that they're not equipped to handle and that are more like a motor vehicle. So more to come on that. I think that the Assembly member's bill has a good chance of passing. I think and the state has done a study through the Mineta Institute at San Jose State on options for allowing further regulation of e-bikes. So our position at the city has been we'd like for the state to take the lead on that because there should be a uniform set of rules that apply across various different cities. We're in that position. We want to encourage people to not get in the car and ride a bike or an e-bike, but to also do it safely.
Yeah, I've just seen an increase in e-bikes in Rossmore. And I'm not against people getting out and exercising. I think that that's great. But I've just seen an increase in the bikes, and I was just wondering if there was going to be a regulation that was coming down with it that would help control some of it.
Yeah, I think the Assembly members is most likely Bauer Cans. That will be likely passed this year and signed by the governor, and then we'll be enforcing that bill and any other ones that the legislature passes, which could be soon, given that study has been complete.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good meeting and a good week.
Okay, now we will move on to our financial status report. Todd Arterburn, you ready to go up here?
Trust capital fund or budget versus actual budget? You got it.
Good morning, board. Good morning, everyone, and welcome new board members. I know this is your first time to get the whole deck of financials to the new members, and I know China is scheduling some one-on-ones with all three of you and myself, so I look forward to kind of taking you through the whole deck and doing a little more orientation on how to read it and what you have in front of you. So I look forward to those meetings. If you remember from last month, the Finance Committee kind of set some parameters in terms of how do we look at some of the deeper variances, and we kind of set on a threshold of if it's over $100,000 variance and over 10% of the budget, we would dig into it a little more. So we're going to start with the Robertson Property Management, and just so you can see, there's not really any areas expanded because we'll talk about the revenue here in a minute. But just like last month, first of all, there's no real red flags this month that we should be really concerned about. We do have some variances on timing we'll go through here over the next couple minutes. Starting with RPM, you can see, obviously, for everyone here, if you're new to the meeting, we do budget a zero-based budget in Rossmore Property Management, so you'll see that the budget is zero. In terms of how we look at our net income, we are actually right now running a loss. That loss is pretty much, if you look at our expenses, we're right on the money with the expenses, right? So, most of our expenses are pretty fixed. We don't have that many variable expenses except for the cost of sales when we're actually using materials on the building maintenance side. So the loss is really due to revenue. That revenue loss has come through really on our billable services. So that is the services that we provide to the mutuals directly for rehab work, both on the operating fund and the reserve fund, which is why those are called operating reserve. So all right.
You need to shut something.
Can we do that?
Okay.
Everybody's sitting here. Okay.
Someone's mic is still on, I think. Okay. Great.
That's not doing it. Yeah,
All right. Better. Okay, so the billable revenue, that's one of those ones where there's a timing issue. We're going to continue to try to do better and better, as you guys know, with seasonalizing how the timings of our funds hit. The revenue on the billable services is a little bit more unpredictable, just because we get the service orders in, and it's not something we can just totally predict. However, we do know that a lot of that work does happen outside the winter months, so as we're coming into May through September, October is when most of the work is done. So you'll see those deficits right themselves over the next summer months. The other thing is we went live with Field Service Management, which is the NetSuite product that replaces our service order desk. So there is a little catch up. We went live with that in October. So there is some just internal implementation billing catch up as we're still working through that implementation, right? So even though we're down $300,000 on those two categories, nothing to be overly concerned with at this point. Like I said, most of the work will get caught up during the summer months. And like I said, everything else we're pretty much on track with for Rossmore Property Management. Any questions on? Yeah, Janet.
So how long does it take for your accounting department to bill the mutuals? I assume this is billing the mutuals for services. Like, why is it so behind?
It's not really, it's like a month behind, and it's not necessarily just accounting, it's the whole team, right? So the whole team up there, when we get those work orders in and you have to get them closed, those orders are being closed over on, Jeroen's side with John T. using the new system, training the new system. Those all go through a resource with Lean over there. And there's just some training. We're pretty much not gonna ever see this again, Janet. We're kind of got through most of the billing issues now. I mean, it's not a huge piece of that. number. It's about probably 50,000 from March that needed to be billed. So, so we'll get that. That's just working out some of the bugs in the system. You know, we have a pretty good, solid team up there. You know, we've gone through a lot of bandwidth issues. I'm fully staffed now, so Melinda's up to speed. So, you know, there's just some really great things happening up there. So I think you'll see, even like this month, you know, we published the financials. All the mutuals went out right on time on the 15th. So we're really actually getting ahead of the curve for the first
And
time.
will the new idea of using seasonality be in play before our budget meetings for next year?
Yeah, we're going to absolutely have it. You know, so Jason, as you know, we brought in last year for the budget work, a financial planning analysis manager. And so this is obviously, you're looking at NetSuite financial reports looking backwards. Workday Adaptive is a tool going forward. And so he is working, especially on the mutual side with all the reserve forward planning, but also, you know, we're talking RWC and RPM now.
Yeah.
We're going to go through every one of these and have a forecasting culture that we've never had,
Right.
which would include those seasonality.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, go ahead and just tab down, Jeff. So, you know, just so also an orientation. So, you know, we have the balance sheet included every month as well. So this is the balance sheet for RPM, where you can kind of see where the cash is sitting. I'm going to come back to that cash clearing account here in a minute when we get to RWC, in case there's some questions on it. So hold your questions. And then you go to the next one, Jeff. You know, obviously, as you guys know, we're doing cash flow statements every month now, which we've never had. So you can look at kind of how the three financial statements tie. Obviously, the cash flow is what connects the balance sheet and the income statement. So, you know, for non-financial people, that's like one of the key pieces that allow us to connect the two. And then if you go to the next page, Jeff, you'll just see, even though we kept the summary level on the budget variance, a report, we have given you guys expanded all the different chart of accounts, all the accounts on a monthly basis, so you guys can see full transparency. You can go through any category you want. So, all right. Jeff, go ahead and jump over to RWC now. Let's start with the budget actual. Great. Okay, so on this budget actuals, we've talked about those thresholds where we want to look at a little further. So obviously, if you looked at other revenue, you can see that other revenue fits those parameters where the variance is over $100,000 and the percentage is more than 10%. So that's why we expanded the other revenue. And if you look through that other revenue account, you'll see that there's a couple standout places where the revenue has not hit. One of those, as we talked last month, was the Creekside revenue. Obviously, we're now open. We, you know, probably in our budgeting for 26, you know, in terms of how those fees come into us from that lease income. So now that it's open, we're going to see those funds coming in. So that's really just a timing on the opening of Creekside, and that's why that's 0. So we'll see that coming in now in May. The bus grant, that is a timing issue. So that is just when we actually finally get the payment from them. So that is, we put it in, I think we put it in last month, and it has not hit yet. So if you look across the board there, you know, you can kind of get a sense where we are, you know, off slightly on some of the revenue items. But I would say that you know, the lease revenue on the Creekside and the bus grant will pick a lot of that up. So, and we're going to, you know, continue to work on all the other revenue streams to bring it back into, you know, where we need to be. On the expense side, there's really the same as last month. These are the same areas that were expanded. Obviously, I think most of you adverse insurance is a big topic these days, right? So last year, you know, we went through we had a 5-month extension through May, which is going to be coming to a close here, and we're going into a new 12-month policy, which looks very favorable. We did have commission rebate that were applied to those numbers, so that's why you see insurance being under on expense. And we will, once we get those final numbers in, you know, that insurance number is a bound number. So once we get the new amounts for June, which is the new policy will run from June 1st through May, we'll be able to know exactly what that surplus is on our insurance for this fiscal year, right? So when we sit here a month from now, we'll know exactly what our insurance costs will be once we get the final bill and it goes through our allocation model and we carve out the piece that RWC pays. So that's really favorable. If you look at the landscape maintenance, a lot of that is just timing on the use of supplies and some of the work being done. So really nothing, you know, it's just, we'll come back on line with that. You know, if you look at repairs and greens in the fairways, you know, there's some variances where we haven't spent the money yet. You know, will some of those maybe carry through the whole year? Too early to tell. Usually we spend those funds. And then if you scroll to the bottom there, Jeff, the next page, you'll see that we're running a surplus right now in RWC, right? So all things are pretty good, especially if you look on a consolidated basis. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, this is the balance sheet. One of the things that you'll see next month that we discussed in the Finance Committee meeting this week is we do have more room on the page. And, you know, I'm trying to always find the right level of detail for this forum. We're going to go ahead and expand a couple of the top accounts like AR and current assets in the bank because we do have investment money that sits in the other assets. We have prepaids that sit there. And then if you look at the bank number, you know, obviously this week we talked about why is it negative, right? No one wants to see negative cash. And it's, so that is, if you open that bank account up, there is a couple different accounts that collapse into that. And one of them is our payroll clearing. And just so everyone knows on accounting, so you're looking at the general ledger balance, you're not looking at the actual bank statement, right? So there's no such thing as negative cash, but as payroll is funded and comes in and out, there is a timing issue in some months where we shows a negative balance, just like your checkbook register, right? If you haven't got a deposit cleared or you have checks that haven't cleared, it may show you have more money, right? Right now we have showed less money. So you'll see that number fluctuate, but what we're going to do next month, we're going to expand those accounts and talk a little bit more on them so you can see that next level of detail, both on RWC and RPM. And then go ahead and go to the trust or the capital fund now, Jeff. Yeah, okay. So on the capital fund, you'll see that the real big addition this year is we move the maintenance fee. So you're going to start seeing some more expenses hit the income statement. We're also going to, one of the things also discussed at the Finance Committee, you'll also see a depreciation hit once we get our fixed assets. There's really not a whole lot of change, but we do need to get to the fixed asset piece, and you'll see some depreciation, which we can talk about next month. We will have the completed audit for 25, and so we'll take some time going through that and get that approved next month. The one thing you do not see in here that sometimes I'm getting questioned is, this fund is obviously the main source of cash inflow is the membership transfer fees, right? And we don't look at that, and that does not hit our income statement. It just goes onto the balance sheet as equity. So if you go to the balance sheet, go to the next slide, you'll see that we're going to expand some of these too, because under the equity piece, you'll see that all the money that has been brought in from the MTFs this year. So part of the MTF report that you get on your financial package shows where we are. That cash comes into the equity. So go to the cash flow statement, the next page, Jeff. So you'll see those changes in equity, that million, is that 813? So that's where you'll see that the MTFs are coming into the cash, right? So once again, the cash flow. And I just encourage you guys to look at the cash flow and certainly reach out for me for any individual questions. I know we're kind of with NetSuite, we're continuing to try to improve our financial reporting package. And I know there's some orientation and education opportunities. So if you guys have questions, I'm happy to meet with one-on-one. And like I said, I'm very happy to get together with the new board members to go over this in detail with them. Any other questions for this month?
Go ahead, Leanne.
So we're going to be having these little adaptions and adjustments as we go through the year.
Just refinements.
Okay.
You know, nothing in terms of the numbers, but just, you know, if we can provide, you know, for example, we show the budget to actual report right now, which just shows through April, right? And this has been a request on the mutual side as well. So we're going to add a report that shows what we spent to date and then compared to the annual budget, so it shows what's left. You know, that also is probably going to be Leanne, that'd be a good report to have. We get a lot of questions like, okay, well, I see the budget actual, but what does the year budget look like? So that's like going to be an enhancement and just a refinement, so we can try to give you guys more information versus less, but still keep it in clean context so you can understand it.
And then a continuation. Do you feel confident that you'll have good background information in NetSuite to prepare us for the budget
Oh, yeah.
season?
Yes.
Okay.
Matter of fact, we're going to have so much better information. You know, we've historically always just done it closed June and doubled it, and we're actually forecasting. So Jason is actually, you know, I think the budget process really is for my team is really a monthly process, right? We're already building the budgets for next year, right? I mean, so much of our budget is labor heavy too, other than some factors and utility increases and CPI adjustments, right? We should be building a budget every month for next year, right? And looking at that forecasting piece of what's going to hit, how much are we really going to spend this year on the capital fund. So I think you're going to see the budget process very much more, I don't know, I don't want to use an AI term, robust, but I think you're going to see a lot more tools that you haven't ever seen in this budget process. Yeah, because that's where Workday Adaptive really comes in, which is our budgeting software.
Ted, you had a question?
So in the past, we used the word seasonality a lot, and I was just, where are we at with that on this budget coming forward? Are we going to be seeing more seasonality numbers and that kind of a thing as we get, you know, we expect it to be at this point, so really even though it might show we're not in budget, we're really in budget according to the season we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we talk about that because let's look at that billable revenue, right? That's a perfect example, right? If we were to go back and, you know, our legacy is in GenArc, if we pull in now 4 years of seasonality, right? And in Workday, we can go through each chart, each account, and put different assumptions. Use the average January spend for the last 4 years to spread it, right? Use just last year because we've had a change in process, right? So, and then also note the ones that are straight line, like insurance and some of the other ones, note that too. So I think you'll see, and this committee goes back to you too, Leanne, as we go through the budget process this year, we're going to kind of have an assumption for how those dollars are spread, right? And we can kind of go through those because there is just a lot, like, you know, if you remember in the first year, we missed the prepaid golf carts, we missed the RV payment. Those are one-time lump sums, right? And those are the ones we want to put in that right month. And then, right, it's in the whole year thing. So I think you're going to see this year, we're going to go through every account we can, right? We just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. Utilities the same way. We know utilities are, you know, pretty much seasonal as well, right? With water usage and all those kind of things. So you're going to see a budget next year that, like I said, has assumptions defined for how those dollars are spread. So we're not up here every month saying, oh, we're behind because it's, you know, straight line revenue. Yeah.
Thank you, Todd.
You bet. Thank you, board.
All right, now we're going to move into the general manager's report. Jeff?
Okay, good morning, and welcome to the new members and to the new president. So today I wanted to just review a process that we do on a quarterly basis in orientation with our new employees. You know, we have a number of employees that begin or they transition to new positions throughout the year. And many of those employees, they will work in a specific location, and then they don't really have the opportunity to see or gain an appreciation for what takes place in Rossmore on a daily basis and what Rossmore really is all about. So this last Tuesday on May 19th, I had the opportunity to welcome 12 new employees, and we did a bus tour. It was a perfect day to really showcase what Rossmore is all about. It was, a day in the low 80s, so the landscaping from the spring has come into full bloom. The valley was looking really nice. As we started the tour, or before we even started the tour, we noticed the pickleball courts at Creekside were in full use. I believe there was a orientation going on at that time. So you saw a number of new potential players that will enjoy the new courts once they're open, but they were being trained and given an orientation by other residents. So it's just a great example of a facility in use. Of course, with that weather, the golf course was in full swing. We got a good view of the Creekside course. I don't know if there's a tournament going on, but there was certainly a lot of activity as people were taking advantage of the good weather. We had an opportunity to go up to Hillside, and up at Hillside there was a lawn bowling tournament going on, and there was, I believe, another community that was maybe here. And two of the lawn bowling greens were in full use, so it was good to see that taking place. And then, of course, we went by the fitness center, and it highlighted a lot of use, but also the parking lot packed there. But that's a good thing, because it means that the classes and the facility is in great shape and getting a lot of use. Kind of ending the day here at Gateway, there was a special event being hosted by the Recreation Department, the Western Days, and the courtyard was full. The line for the food was long, and the music was playing, and it was just a really good day. I ended off by going by the event center, and of course it was set up for, I believe it was the Republicans were having a dinner later that night and an event. So the room and the Tahoe room and the Donner room were all set up, ready to host a large-scale event, and it just showcased really what that room and venue is all about. So all in all, it was just a really good day in Rossmore. And sometimes we forget about that. We focus on all of the different activities or the different issues of the day. But when it comes down to it, I say it a lot, where I get my inspiration is when you go around Rossmore and you see how many things there are for people to do here. But more importantly, you see the level of engagement at each of the amenities. How many people are out utilizing all of the stuff that Rossmore has to offer. So it was a good way to highlight everything for our new staff, and they were certainly impressed by how involved all of the residents are in the many activities. The other item I just wanted to highlight is on Monday, June 1st, is the now annual Pickleball for Parkinson's. You see the sign out there, and their fundraising effort is in full swing. I encourage people to stop by. The courts will be in full swing from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There are free events going on throughout the day and demonstrations of high-level play. There's some raffles and some other booths. There's food. Please go out and support that very worthy cause that is sponsored by Pickleball for Parkinson's. And that is all I have.
Any questions for Jeff? Okay, thank you, Jeff. Now we will go on to the member forum. And Janet, our secretary?
Yes, we have 6 members who want to speak today. The first one is Ron Snyder, followed by Karen Perkins. Please state your full name, address, and you have 2 minutes.
Ron Snyder, 1752 Stanley Dollar Drive, 1A. At the May 20th open house, there was a proposal to change from diagonal parking spaces to perpendicular spaces. We are told this will add a significant number of parking spaces to Gateway and Dollar. I have gathered information using Google Gemini, including reference to 4 studies regarding issues that can occur making this change. Here is a summary of the research. If a senior community makes this change, safety data suggests they should expect a measurable rise in low-speed multi-vehicle property damage claims, fender benders, and a higher risk of pedestrian backover incidents due to physiological changes that occur with age. Further, the research shows that making the aisles wider to accommodate this is very helpful. However, if we do this, it will eliminate some of the gains expected, and it would be difficult to do at Gateway with the columns for the solar panels. If we select option 1, there would be less pressure on us to make this change, as approximately 55 RPM employees and their cars would remain at the Rockview site. Russell Ogawa and I have sent an email to the board and the general manager. We ask that you review this matter carefully and engage an independent third-party professional about this before deciding on this change. Also, providing predictable, reliable transportation at Rossmore would alleviate pressure on parking, as more residents would opt to use the transportation instead of driving.
Thank you. That is time.
My name is Karen Perkins. I live at 1935 Golden Rain Road. I've lived in Rossmore for 23 years, and I've always cared about who governs me and how they govern. All 3 design options we've been limited to are so wrong for Rossmore, almost as if the administration and ELS architecture contractor have little to no idea on how senior adults, mainly retired, living in a community of 10,000 seniors, of other seniors, choose to spend the most precious thing they have, other than money, time. Sorry, but this is difficult to read here. Other than money. It's something that the administration and ELS contractor and everyone who goes to a job to pay their bills does not have. It's called free time. Every worker wants this, often referred to as more work-life balance. This, for most of us, is the achievement of a dream, a paradise of sorts. So about these plans, let's take food, for example. A resident commented, "We don't need food everywhere." These design plans have a cafe in the Redwood Room, a cafe in the Fireside Room, or cafe in Peacock Plaza, a cafe at Dollar House, in addition to the restaurant now at Creekside. Bringing a cafe to Dollar House is like bringing coals to Newcastle. Perhaps the administration and ELS contractor are not aware that thousands of potlucks have been held and still are by myriad clubs at Dollar. Club members bring food, use the kitchen to refrigerate or heat it up, and the room adjacent to the solarium is perfect for buffet tables and has a bar. The solarium is also perfect for dining, socializing, holding club meetings afterwards, or club speakers, even movies or videos. That's time?
Correct. Thank you. That is time.
Mary England is next, followed by Bertha.
Good morning. Mary England, 1200 Fairlawn Court, Entry 5, Number 8. I would like to address the RWC draft policy from the Policy Committee to the Board, 104.3, which states, Rossmore Walnut Creek will not disclose any personal identifying information to its members, about its members, to any non-affiliated third party without the authorization of the member. We need to define and clarify what's affiliated. Rossmore Walnut Creek only shares personally identifying information with affiliated third parties. Again, who are we talking about? I would like to highlight California Civil Code 1798.100A1, which states, "A business shall not collect additional categories of personal information that is incompatible with the disclosed purpose." So we need to know for what purposes many of the 26 types of personally identified information will be used. Thank you.
My name is Bertha Riley. I reside at 4000 Terra Granada, Apartment 2. So my statement this morning is to appeal for better communication between employees and residents. The amount of dissent created in a great community, and we are all part of the community. I believe that's the way we should operate, employees and residents. And I think we do care very much about our employees. So it's distressing to find this amount of dissent. There are solutions, and great solutions. There are professional, organizational communication people. There are professional people who help organizations to create better systems. I mean, maybe the employees need better electronic communications. I don't know if they do have, but I know many people who have been to the planning office, for instance, and have felt treated very badly, to be quite honest. I myself have had some rude emails from employees. And, you know, it's distressing to hear that, because we need to act as a community for the sake of everybody. And these, you know, especially we're in our last stages. We don't really want dissent. And, you know, there's been a lot of efforts to stop dissent. You know, people aren't allowed to print certain things in the papers and things like that. But the amount of dissent that's going on now is way beyond anything I would have hoped to reach at this stage in my life.
Thank you.
So,
that is time.
yeah, organization consultants could be good. Thank you.
Gazelle Huff, followed by David Shub.
My name is Giselle Huff. I reside at 600 Terra, California, number 6. I want to comment on the process that the board has initiated to get feedback from Rossmore residents about the Gateway Club project. There were 6 sessions where potentially 100 people could show up for a total of 600 people. As you know, 3 sessions were originally scheduled, but due to the demand, 3 additional sessions were added. There are approximately 9,500 residents in Rossmore, and 600 participants represent about 6% of the population. Of course, the total number of people who actually showed up on May 20th was less than that number. According to the Rossmore News, the board will take the comments into account and come up with 1 or more revised solutions. This is not acceptable. Additional sessions have to be scheduled for residents to comment on the original options, not those developed after the limited input from the first tranche of participants. It's evident that there is a demand for the opportunity to be heard by the residents, and to be fair, the next round of sessions should offer the same alternatives given to the first round. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm David Shub. Victoria Hackett and I live at 2634 Sackland Indian Drive, number 1, and Mutual 39. We're also members of First Walnut Creek Mutual and Mutual 70. In my role as a real estate broker and in Victoria's role as Mutual 39 president, we interact frequently with Rossmore Property Management. RWC has invested significant staff time, effort, and money into marketing, and the belief that it will increase sales and generate more income through the membership transfer fee. Let me tell you that much of those efforts are counterproductive to that end. Doing business in Rossmore has become increasingly difficult because of inefficiencies, delays, poor communication, and lack of information. In the past 50-plus years, I've closed thousands of escrows throughout Northern California. Nowhere have I found doing business as difficult and as painful as it is here. The rollout of multiple websites has created confusion rather than clarity. It's more difficult to navigate, not easier. It takes longer to obtain inspection and alteration meeting appointments as well as reports. Obtaining Davis Sterling documents remains unnecessarily frustrating and time-consuming, creating extra work for both staff and realtors, and increasing the membership transfer fee by another $1,000 on every April Fool's Day is beginning to negatively impact both sales activity and property values. I encourage the board to seriously examine these issues because current system's costing us all money. Consider including those of us working in the system in your decision making. Thank you for listening.
Okay, that concludes our member forum. Thank you very much for everyone coming and sharing your thoughts with us. Now we're going to move on to our resident member committee reports. And before we do that, I just want to make a quick suggestion, reminder to folks that we are at this point in the year where we look for new folks to volunteer for our resident committees. We have a number of openings that have been advertised in the Rossmore News, and I specifically want to highlight the audit committee. The audit committee has 2 openings, and at this point, we have 1 applicant. And we'd love to have some more applicants for all our committees, but particularly the audit committee. You know, a lot of people will say, why would I want to be on the audit committee? Or I don't want to know all that information. Well, I was on the audit committee for quite a while, and I served as a secretary, and it's a great opportunity to find out about how Rossmore works. So hopefully we're going to be starting our interviews and for our new resident committees, and we'd love to have some more folks for the audit committee. But now I will call upon Barry Devine to give a report from the Aquatics and Fitness Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Susan, and good morning, everybody. My report today is going to be a little bit duplicative because Mike Wood did a very nice job in yesterday's newspaper on some of the same material. So if you got it, I hope you'll be patient with that. And if you didn't, here's a chance to catch up. So the Aquatics and Fitness group met on 2 weeks ago on May 14. Everybody was present except one member who was traveling outside Rossmore at the time. There were approximately 20 residents who attended to share points of view on difficulties that they were facing with regard to our programs. Most attendee residents were there to voice opposition to the $5 fee which was announced for specific classes. Most prominent among the classes listed to charge the $5 fee was for the deep water aerobics class, and people had frustrations with that. It was repeated that recruitment of lifeguards for the other pools has been very difficult this year, and in some cases required that the hours be curtailed slightly to accommodate the lack of lifeguards available. At my request, Deborah Rose led a discussion reviewing the charter of our committee. We realized that we were not meeting our charge with regard to budgets and user fee recommendations. We plan to remedy that soft shortfall of recommendations going forward. The RWC Director of Communications Community Relations presented a very detailed report and additional user fees. The information included user fees charged in Rossmore previously, as well as example of charges made in some other programs outside of Rossmore. The fact that 55 exercise classes are offered at our fitness center free now, plus orientation programs, workshops of different kinds, like the one that was recently conducted on how to get up after a fall, as well as general staff support, are offered again without additional charge. Classes considered for the additional fee include advanced yoga, spin class, bar class, the special Parkinson's class, as well as the deep water aerobics that I mentioned. Many of the classes in this category are led by part-time instructors with special qualifications. Discussion followed about what could be considered as core classes as compared to specialized classes. A subcommittee was formed to examine how specialty classes are defined and to explore alternative fee structures in greater detail. And they have not at this point convened. 3 people on that committee. Now, if there are any questions that I could answer, I'll do my best to answer them.
Any questions for Barry? Leanne?
Barry, will the subcommittee be meeting with people from community services?
We haven't convened yet, so we haven't talked about that, but I think the staff is going to be involved because I happen to be on the committee, so...
They're nodding yes. So.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Thank you, Barry. Now we'll move on to the Finance Committee. Dan Ring, Chair.
Good morning. The Finance Committee, committee had a meeting on Tuesday. The April financial statements that Todd already showed for RWC, RPM, and the consolidated financial statements were discussed. We also discussed the MTFs. In April, 24 units generating fees of $424,000. So for 2026, we are now 6 units behind from 2025, but because of the increase in fees, we are $67,500 ahead of 2025's rate. Ms. Mottola presented a proposed capital and operating project to improve security at the Stanley Dollar Gate area following increased criminal activity associated with unauthorized access through the existing fencing and gate system. Public Safety Director Tom Cashion provided additional background regarding repeated gate damage, trespassing, burglaries, vehicle theft, and catalytic converter thefts occurring at the location after a neighboring gate on Lucas Ranch Road was removed. Staff reviewed the proposed security enhancements and real-time remote monitoring services through Securitas. Staff also explained that the fencing design would eliminate the current ability for individuals to bypass the gate by walking around the hillside area. A motion was made and seconded to recommend to the RWC Board that there are sufficient funds to approve a capital budget expenditure not to exceed $26,810 for the Stanley Dollar Security Fencing and Camera Capital Project, and authorize an agreement with Securitas for remote system monitoring to be paid from the operating budget for a total contract value of $11,072 over a period of 3 years. This motion passed unanimously. Thank you. I'll answer any questions.
Questions for Dan? Clarify, we need a motion on the recommendation now, right? Okay. So do we have a motion regarding the recommendation for the capital budget expenditure regarding the dollar security fencing?
Yeah. These are just reports.
I understand. I'm just saying, I just want to clarify that the recommendation is on here. I think we need to make the motion here.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay.
Correct.
So,
Thank you.
Correct.
I will move that we, the board approve a capital budget expenditure not to exceed $26,810 for the Stanley Dollar Security Fencing and Camera Project, and to authorize an agreement with Securitas for remote system monitoring to be paid from the operating budget for a total contract value of $11,072 over the 3-year life of the contract.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
That was Ted seconds that. Okay, any questions or discussion here by the board on this motion? No questions? Okay, then we could have a roll call. Deborah?
Certainly. Hildreth?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hamaji?
Yes.
Spence?
Yes.
Ruvalo?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Yang.
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you. Then we'll move on to golf advisory, and I believe Pat is here, and I don't want to mispronounce your last name. Pat Iaculo, glad to have you here.
Thank you. And you did well. It's Pat Iaculo. Good morning to the board and to welcome to the new members. The Golf Advisory Committee meeting was held this past several weeks ago on the 12th of May, and several issues were brought up at that meeting, one of which is of concern that we wanted to bring out, and we're dealing with it. Well, currently, we have always reported that the membership of the various clubs, or we do report at the membership of the various clubs at each of these board meetings. It was noted by our chairman, Burke Ferrari, that it appears from his reviews of previous membership over the years that there's been a decline in the number of members amongst the clubs. So we wanted to address that. So currently, the membership stands at 707, and an update to that total as of just the other day brings it to 710, so 3 more members have been added to the rolls. That total shows approximately a 10% drop in membership over the years. So a discussion was then introduced at that meeting that the membership totals reported by the 4 clubs has been down compared to previous years, with the men's club reporting the largest decline. This issue was reported in last week's Rossmore News. While the issue appears to be a cause of concern, the golf shop, published an April report that the total number of golf rounds played through the month of April of this year totaled 21,497 rounds. That's a number that's continuing to grow every month. So it looks like even though there is a decline or decline in total membership for the members of the clubs, we're getting a lot of rounds of golf here, which is wonderful, which means recognizing that golf is open to the entire community of Rossmore, not just the clubs. So further, it should be noted that the men's club has historically listed approximately 305 to 310 members at the end of the year. So right now, we are at 200 and, I forgot the number now, excuse me. Well, it was around 292 members. So we're close. So it really isn't a big drop in numbers overall as you continue to see how things happen during every month. It continues to grow. This is only May. We have till the end of the year to reach those 300 numbers that we've had before. So we're looking forward to that happening. But nonetheless, we're still looking at that reason, trying to find out why we have a drop in membership. So perhaps one of the reasons came out at during discussion was that perhaps there are golfers that are choosing not to join clubs for various reasons. Sometimes there's a movement that, you know, I don't need to be in a club. It's an anti-club feeling, whatever. Nonetheless, as a result, you know, their interests may be purely recreational or social and aren't interested in joining a club that sponsors competitive games, which we do amongst all the clubs. So it's usually organized on the 18-hole course. So we've, at the men's club anyhow, we've instituted, due to some popular demand among some of the members, to open up the 9-hole course for competition. And that's been received very well. So we're now starting to see competitive rounds of golf going around on the 9-hole course. Again, competitiveness versus social. So we're continuing to study the issue that the 4 clubs have already begun to address, attracting new members or attracting new residents to join one of the 4 clubs. We've had printed materials placed at the golf shop advising new residents, whether they're seasoned golfers or beginners, that they can participate in golf here at Rossmore by joining one of the organized clubs. And the issue will continue to be discussed at the upcoming GAC meetings. Just for information, if you haven't already seen this, this was a copy of a card that has been placed in the golf shop for new members to come and consider playing, joining the clubs as members. So it's out there, and you can take a look at this if you wish. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Pat? Oh, go ahead, Adrian.
Yes, in the minutes of your report, there were discussion about difficulties with outside contractors, some outside contractors no longer being available. Yes. Is that affecting our ability to maintain the course at this point, or?
Well, I may not be the right person to answer that fully, but nonetheless, I do want to say that I have had a meeting together with Berg Ferrari, who is the chairman of the GAC, and with Jackie Vigil, who's our head golf pro. We met with Blake and Blake Swint, who's the course superintendent, and we asked him how it was going in terms of his maintaining the course, what problems he may be having, so we can better understand if he does have issues. And several things did come up. More importantly, it has to do with, or I shouldn't say more importantly, but it has to do a lot with the fact that we are a 27-hole golf course, and we have 12 maintenance people working here. That's a tough hoe. So, and that's at only one time. He has to deal with sicknesses, he has to deal with vacations, it's a union operation, the rotations cause a lot of problems. So we have a lot of issues with regard to maintaining the course. On top of that, he mentioned to us that he had, in the past, been able to get outside contractors to kind of fill the gap as time went on, if necessary. As it turned out, monies available for him to do that have been cut. He doesn't have the money to do that, or he doesn't have the contractors available to do it. The reason being, according to, again, to Blake, is that the contracts that are issued by Rossmore are very difficult to abide by. They're tough contracts. And so these contractors who are not used to working in such an environment like this really you say, we don't need the problem. So we wanted to bring out, is there a possibility that someone look at the contracts that are issued by Rossmore? Is there a way to find if there are issues in there that are difficult that they can't abide by, and to try to alleviate them if possible? Because it would really help the overall situation with maintenance staff if we were able to get other groups in here to help him do that work. It's a big job, and we don't want to lose Blake. He's one of the best we have. So
just to add a little bit to that information, it is a big job, and it is 27 holes. We have always operated on the philosophy that we have a fairly skinny crew. However, we are extremely robust in terms of the equipment that you authorize on an annual basis for maintaining the courses. So we compensate somewhat from our staffing with some really good equipment. The other thing we do is we supplement a lot of the work on the course with various contractors, and over time, some of those contractors have either taken other positions. In relation to our agreements that we utilize, the basic foundation is that you have a valid California contractor's license and you are properly insured. Some of the contractors did not meet that minimum basic threshold. It is a fairly straightforward, simple contract. We are working with the golf shop and the maintenance folks in order to process that. So we are actually well-staffed. We utilize temp agencies when we are short-staffed or folks are gone on extended leave, and we have the opportunity still to bring in. And the budget has not been curtailed whatsoever in terms of the capital investment, in terms of the operating budget. So.
Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm looking at the comment by the member forum person about the toxic chemicals on the golf course, and I'm wondering if you have took that seriously and are making any studies on that.
Jump in here again on that. Every chemical that we use on the golf course and throughout our landscaping area, we have licensed applicators that do all of that work. It is sprayed and applied in strict compliance with regulations. The chemicals that we use are approved and applied in the appropriate manner. There is certainly interest by some residents that we use alternatives or other means. That really comes down to a discussion and decision by committees and the board in terms of the cost benefit of that. In order to replace, for example, Roundup, there are very few alternatives, and most of those involve significant more investment in staffing to take care of the weeds, and it also would impact our ability to maintain the course in a playable condition. So it is a really complex question and solution that needs a lot more discussion on the pros and cons of why we use what we use.
So how would we go about having that discussion? Because I think it is something that a number of people are very concerned about, and I know there are golf courses that are Roundup free, so it's possible. And how do we get to a point where the board can look at this thing and say, oh, it's going to cost $1 million, we can't afford to do it, or it's going to cost $10,000 and we should do it with no question. I know it's not one of those or the other, but it's somewhere in the middle. But where is the middle?
So the next step really would be to bring a discussion and involve our landscape professionals in terms of our current practices, alternatives, information in the field, our industry information, regarding all of those alternatives and the impact of that on play and on the landscaping itself. In the theme that nothing is new in Rossmore, we did have this discussion involving Roundup and application several years ago, and it was a presentation that was done to the board, done for the board, and direction was received at that point. So I would recommend that we do the same type of thing again, give all of the background information of what it is we use, how we apply it, when we apply it, and then the various alternatives, other courses and landscape areas, and then the board can have a better background and make some decisions, especially as we go into the budget season. So we can agendize that for the next few months.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, Pat, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go on to board committee reports. And I'm going to ask Janet, do you have a report from the planning committee?
Yes, I do. So we met on May 14th. We moved to the Fairway Room because we expected a lot of resident to show up, and they did. We had over 50 people in the room, and basically Ann Matola gave a capital projects update on different projects that are ongoing. As you know, the pickleball courts have been delayed. The new date that we think it'll be open is in July, not June. And then we're working on the Tice Skylight Roof project. And as you know, Golden Pear did open, the soft opening, and then a informal opening. It's open today and tomorrow for lunch and dinner. So check it out, go check it out. And then of course we've got the golf bridge replacement that is going forward, and no major updates on pavement, hillside, or NetSuite at this point. We did invite ELS architect to come, and he basically previewed a slideshow of what we did at the open house. I believe, I'm not sure how much of this is on myrossmore.com at this point that people can view. There were also pictures from that slideshow in the newspaper last week. So that is ongoing. We also have a discussion on the short-range transit plan. The committee reviewed proposals and recommended to the board to hire Fair and Peers in an amount not to exceed $80,000 to study our current transit service, our ridership trends, post-pandemic travel patterns, fixed route, on-demand, or hybrid transit models, and staffing, fleet technology, and cost considerations. This study is going to take some time. It's going to probably not be fully completed till the end of the year. We approved at the committee level to recommend to the board that this study be funded. And then I think that is about it. We had a lot of resident input at the meeting, and we have taken all of that input seriously. And the next meeting of the Planning Committee is on June 11th at 10 a.m. Maybe in the boardroom, maybe back in Fairway. We'll see if it's available.
Okay, any questions for Janet? All right, well, I am going to suggest that we take a break now. It's 10:19, and we will reconvene at 10:30 and go on with the policy committee report. Thank you. All here, so we'll reconvene here. And we will move on to the policy Committee, and the Policy Committee has several recommendations for action that we're going to be considering today. And at the Policy Committee, I was serving as the vice chair, as our chair, Mary Hurt, had moved on from her term, and also Leanne and Ted were at this meeting. We had a really robust discussion, a continued discussion of the policies related to facility use, clubs, and guest use. And again, I think that was very well covered in the Rossmore News yesterday. This is a complex subject, and Ann Matola gave a good presentation. She also had some feedback from Phil Prasick, president of the Sunday Dancers, in developing some revisions to our current policies. Excuse me. We had a good discussion on that. We had some questions about the general direction that we were taking, and I'm not going to go into too great detail about that because we will be constituting a new policy committee. We'll meet next on June 8th. We'll continue the discussions regarding club uses and the policies, and I really wanted to have our new committee in place in order to continue those discussions. So we also recommended a variety of policies to move forward that we have been discussing over the last several meetings with Ann Peterson. So any questions? I'll move on to some of the actions here. So we did recommend approval of a revised privacy policy for Rossmore websites as recommended by the Policy Committee. This can be taken and approved in an action today. Are there any questions about that? Ann, do you want to just do a brief primer on that item?
Sure. So let me explain first of all, there's two types of policies. Most of the RWC policies come before the board for two readings. You have a first reading, and then at the second reading, you would vote. This is different. This policy just lives on the website. So this is one you'll actually take action on today. This policy already exists. The privacy policy has to be on the website. That's by state law and federal law. So what we're doing today is we're talking about some revisions that were necessary because we made some redesigns to Rossmore.com and My Rossmore, and we needed the privacy policy to reflect that. We also want to be sure that this is on RossmoreNews.com and RossmoreTV.com. We have 4 websites. So a couple of the big changes. We are now going to have social media. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. Eventually, we will also have TikTok. So we want to be sure that we are representing that in our privacy policy. So we want to talk about the types of personal information that we may collect for social media and also how we would be using that information. We also want to talk about the information and how it's shared. So the types of trusted third-party service providers. By that, we're talking about things like our vendors, NetSuite, Dwelling Live, a lot of different online vendors that we're now using. One thing with that too, we don't specifically name our vendors because we want to have some operational flexibility. We are constantly adding new providers, so if you name them, we would have to keep coming back every single time to the policy committee and then to the board, and we all know how long that takes, so we wanted some flexibility with that. Also, information security, we want to make sure that we are in compliance with California Civil Code 1798.82. That's the one that involves if there's a security breach involving the personal identifiable information and what steps you would need to take in order to make sure that everybody's information has been protected. So those are the highlights. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Ann? Go ahead, Roy.
Use your mic. Can't hear.
I have some confusing about why we need to collect the height, weight, physical descriptions, and gate access information, exercise habits, this seems has nothing to do with the community. And I do not know why we want to collect those informations.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding, Roy.
I think the question was focused on why would we collect data related to physical attributes and so forth of individuals.
So what our lawyer told us is we want to make sure that we are covering everything. We have to keep in mind that we have things like our fitness center, we have our counseling services. There could be times that either one of those may be collecting that type of information. So you want to be sure that you cover everything. There are those 26 attributes that are covered under a standard privacy policy. So the lawyer told us include all of those. Otherwise, at any one time, one of those two entities might come back and say, we are collecting this information. And then again, we would have to come back to the group and ask that that be added. So what the lawyer has suggested is you put all of that information in there so that you are covered in case you do decide to collect that information. At this time, we don't. But again, you put it in there in case at some point you do decide you want to collect that information.
My concern is the safety guys and what kind of condition those collected information can be shared by others, especially social media.
So one thing that is really important to note about the way that we do things in Rossmore. So we take the utmost caution when it comes to security. Everything that we do in here, I was going to talk about this a little bit with the next item on the agenda, but we'll skip ahead. So when it comes to affiliated versus unaffiliated, most of what we do is actually affiliated. So our affiliated folks are our vendors. It can be everything from Securitas for our security, Brightview for landscaping, to NetSuite and Dwelling Live, which are our online platforms, and all of these folks are contracted. In the contract, it stipulates that they have to follow the same high standards that we do for privacy policies, including if there is a breach, the steps that they have to follow to make sure that we safeguard all of the residents in here, meaning that they would have to help to follow and help to get all of everybody's security information then protected. So, with that in mind, we don't do anything without making sure that our residents are filling out forms. So let's take Securitas for an example. If you come in to get an RFID tag, you're filling out a form. The residents know exactly what personal information they are giving to Securitas in order to get an RFID tag. It's the same thing. If you go to counseling and counseling is doing an intake form, you're filling out a form. That's what we do. We don't have a resident do anything in here or give any personal information without knowing up front what information they are giving to us. So at any time, on any form, they can opt out and not give us information if they don't want to give it to us. So it's the same thing. If somebody is asking a question, and there are questions, there are many times that residents opt, for example, not to give income or not to state their race on certain forms. It's one reason why we get asked this question a lot. What is the racial makeup in Rossmore? We don't know, because that is a question a lot of our residents do not answer. So it is not something that we can provide. So again, there are a lot of opportunities for our residents to opt out when it comes to that personal information. So that's one way that we do protect some of the private information. Again, by making sure that all of our affiliated vendors are contracted, we can make sure that they are following very strict privacy standards.
Any other questions?
I still have some. My question is, you explained the reason to collect all those informations. That I can understand. But how are we going to be safeguard our residents or members' information to the outside Rossmore? Especially today, the social media is, I'm afraid one day we're going to be lost all the privacies. So I'd like to know, Rossmore may have a liability to leak all those information out.
So a couple of things, first of all. One reason for going to NetSuite is so that we could have a much higher level of security when it came to our member records. There is a whole lot more built into NetSuite than we had under GenArc in order to protect that personal information. We have a very high level of standards for firewalls when it comes to protecting personal data for our residents and also for all of our websites. I talked with Leanne about this not too long ago. I invest very heavily, you'll see it at budget time, in our professional services budget. A good portion of that money is for security levels for our website. So everything that is tied to Rossmore.com, My Rossmore, and all of the vendors that are connected to that is so that we make sure we do not have security breaches. I have a web developer who also has a team that works in India so that we have 24/7 coverage, and that's why, because I want to be sure that we can protect that website overnight. When it comes to social media, we have not set this up the way that standard social media has done. There is no outside commenting. The only folks who are doing posts are my staff. We've done that by design. We don't want the outside coming in. We want to be able to control that. In addition to that, we are doing, for everything that goes online, we are doing photo releases. So everybody who has a Facebook post or an Instagram post, they know their photo is going onto social media. So they have the option to say up front, no. That's part of the privacy sort of standards that we're setting with social media.
Okay, any other questions on this?
I have one question.
Oh, please go ahead, Leanne.
So this doesn't have a policy number. We discussed this in policy committee. Can you just explain to the residents where this resides?
So this will go on the 4 websites, and it lives at the bottom of the page in the footer. So if you scroll to the bottom of every single website, you're going to see privacy. That's by design again. Every single website, you always have to make sure that your privacy policy lives in the same place. And by design, privacy policies tend to always be in the footer. So we make sure we put them where everybody's used to seeing them. And then in the next item that you're going to take up, we actually tell everybody in our in policy 104.3 where they can find it, so they'll know.
Okay, any other questions on the privacy policy for the website? Do I have a motion to approve this policy? This we can approve today.
Yes.
We can approve this today.
That's correct. This is not a actual RWC policy. This is just a website policy.
Website policy.
And again, this one already lives on the website, so all we're doing is approving the revisions to it.
Okay, Ted.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the revised privacy policy for Rossmore website as recommended by the policy committee.
Thank you, Ted. Could we have a second? Adrian seconds that. Thank you, Adrian. Could we have any other further discussion? Could we have a roll call, please, Deborah?
Certainly. Hildreth?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hamachi?
Yes.
Spence?
Yes.
Ruvalo?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
Yang?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Then, Ann, do you want to give us a little presentation on our second item, the first reading of the revised policy 104.3 on privacy, which we will not be approving today. We will have a second reading in June, assuming we're going forward. So,
okay,
go ahead.
So this policy already exists, but what we're doing is we're adding some text to it. So the additional text would be, in compliance with the California Privacy Rights Act, Rossmore Walnut Creek also publishes on its website an online privacy policy that discloses data collection practices, sharing disclosures, and consumer rights. The online privacy policy is located in the footer of the homepage on each Rossmore Walnut Creek owned website. And yes, the lawyer helped me write this in case that wasn't obvious. a couple questions did come up in members forum, and that's kind of what I wanted to come back to. So the questions actually referred to the existing policy. So I'm going to go back to the existing policy. Rossmore Walnut Creek, not disclosing personal identifying information about members to any non-affiliated third parties. What's a non-affiliated third party? That would mean a third party, a vendor that we are not contracted with. And quite honestly, I'm sitting in the audience trying to figure out what that would be. We're actually contracted with pretty much everybody. I can't think of a single one we're not contracted with. It might be if you're talking about somebody like maybe somebody that we might recommend. So for example, if you go to counseling, we have a list of referrals. Those are folks we're not affiliated with. But at the same time, we actually wouldn't give anybody on that list any information at all. We would just give that list to the residents, and the residents would make a decision if they wanted to connect with those folks. So I wouldn't even call those folks non-affiliated because we would never actually give any of our information to those folks. Probably the next closest would be, because I'm the communications department, I do have folks from the outside sometimes reach out to me. So I have had some vendors contact me saying, I would like to talk to, for example, the Rotary Club. Can you tell me who the president is and what the information is? And I will say no. You can give me your name and your contact information, and I will pass it on to them. That's the way we do that in here. The other thing that, I know this is going to sound strange, we actually consider our clubs to be non-affiliated. I know that sounds strange, but because we're not contracted with our clubs, I actually would never go to a club and say, we are going to put, for example, your information onto our website without asking the club first if they want that information there. So we always ask the club, who's your contact? Do you want the email and do you want the phone number on the website? We ask that first. Again, that's part of making sure that we follow the California Privacy Rights Act to be sure that they understand what's being disclosed and how it's being disclosed. So you always ask up front. So on the flip side, who is affiliated? Affiliated would be everybody who's contracted. So I talked about that a moment ago. Securitas for security. It could be Brightview, who's doing landscaping, contracted for us. It's NetSuite, which has our member records. It's now Dwelling Live, which helps to manage our guest list online. Even in these cases, so things like NetSuite and Dwelling Live, that's one where technically we have not explicitly gone to our members and said, we are sharing your information with NetSuite and Dwelling Live. But keep in mind, when a new resident moves in, they have filled out a member record, and they do know that that's going into the system. We haven't specifically said we're putting this in NetSuite, but they do know that it's going into a computer system. We just didn't tell them which one. And when they go to Securitas and they're filling out the form to get an RFID tag, they know that it's going into a system. We just haven't told them that the system is Dwelling Live. But they do understand it's going into a computer system. So when they're filling out the forms, they do know what information is going into our computer system. So they do know what information they have shared. The contracts we have signed with all of these affiliated vendors very implicitly state, this is the information that you're getting, and you can only use this information to do business with us. You cannot share this information with anyone else. You can't share this information, and you must take very, very strict standards to protect this information. So that information can never live outside of the scope of work that they do for us. We're very strict about that. Very, very strict about that.
Are there questions for Ann on this? Adrian, go ahead.
I don't question the overall intent of this thing. The word affiliated is not defined. It doesn't say that we have a contract and we enforce all of these privacy requirements in that contract. And so then in some ways it sort of seems a bit of a loose word. And I don't know whether we want to address changing that word to be as explicit as you just were.
We can certainly take it back. Again, this was an existing policy, so it wasn't one that we'd sort of opened up, but we were just adding text. But if you want to go back to policy with it, to talk about being more implicit with the language of the existing policy, we certainly could do that. But one thing I will point out, this did go to our lawyer, right? So Jeff Beaumont did look at this. And this is, I know it's legal standard language, but this is the way that policies of this nature are written. So if you do that, if you go back and you're trying to start adding words to it, you are getting away from the California standard language if we start to add words to it.
I believe the term affiliated is actually a legally defined term within this policy, but we can confirm that prior to your final reading. But that's a specific term that I don't think you want to change based on its relationship.
Go ahead, Roy.
I just realized, maybe be very late to realize this. The policy 104.3, the first paragraph, the last one to collect the bank account numbers. I do not understand why we need to collect bank account numbers, because we have so many frauds outside. You get a driver license, birthday, all these numbers, then suddenly you have a bank account number. And there's a lot of things going on. Today's bank does not guarantee they will cover the fraud, your fraud loss.
Many residents sign up for electronic transfer of funds, so ACH payments of their
That's I understand.
their coupons. So that's all included in this. So we do collect that information.
Is that information going to be shared with anyone outside of the Rushmore?
It's included in NetSuite, so that's why it's part of this. It is shared with NetSuite because it lives in NetSuite. So that's why it has to be part of this policy.
Any other questions? Oh, Leanne, go ahead.
I just want to reiterate that this is a first reading, but 104.3, I asked you to double check with the attorney. So they have looked at it more than once.
Yes, the attorney looked at it yesterday thoroughly, one more time, and reiterated that this is the language that we want to be in compliance with the California Privacy Rights Act.
Okay, so I just wanted to clarify because some residents are concerned about it.
Yes, I know some residents are concerned, so we did go back and ask him to look at it one more time, and he did clarify that this is the language that we want for this policy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So just confirming that we're not taking action today, but I want to make sure that the board does not seek to return this to the policy committee after our lengthy discussion, and I think the confirmation that the attorneys reviewed it, so that we can schedule it for the June meeting for a second reading. Are there any other, is that acceptable to the board?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And now we'll go on to our unfinished business. And I think that, Ann, you might want to...
And can I ask
I'm sorry,
one
Nace,
quick
please go ahead. I missed that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Ann, Nace has a question, and then we have
sorry.
another item that... Sorry, Ann.
You need the exercise.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that our attorney took a look at this and said it's consistent with the CPRA
Yes.
law. Is that in writing?
Yes, it is.
That's all.
I'd be happy to send it to the board so you can see the statement.
Okay, Ann, would you mind staying? Because we're moving
Sure.
on to unfinished business. And our unfinished business is consider revised policy 603.0 Rossmore websites as recommended by the policy committee. This is the second reading. So we would be approving this revised policy. Any comments on this one?
Yes, so especially for the new members, the reason that we are looking at this one was because this was probably one of the most outdated policies we had in the book. We have, since we adopted this one originally, again, we have completely revised our websites. One of the websites that was included was completely gone. We now have My Rossmore as the residents' exclusive website. Rossmore.com is now our marketing website for our prospective residents. RossmoreNews.com is the website for our newspaper, and RossmoreTV.com is the website for our TV. That's where we have live stream and on-demand programming. So what we wanted was this website, all of the 4 websites, to be better reflected in this policy. One of the things we also did add to this policy is that we are selling advertising on both Rossmore.com and MyRossmore.com. That is a big revenue source for the communications department, and we wanted that to be reflected in this policy so that the residents understand and that the board understands how that works within the context of the websites. Are there any questions?
Okay, seeing no questions on policy 603.0, could I have a motion to approve that?
I'd like to make the motion. I move that the board adopt revised policy 603.0 Rossmore websites as recommended by the policy committee to reflect changes to Rossmore Walnut Creek's 4 websites.
Do we have a second? Ted seconds. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, could we have a roll call, please, Deborah?
Certainly. Hildreth?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hamaji?
Yes.
Spence?
Yes.
Ruvalo?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Yang?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone, on all those website and privacy policies. Wow, we're getting through them. So now we're going to move on to new business, and we are going to be considering a recommendation to the board for the selection of the consultant for the short-range transit plan, and I think Kelsey is going to give us a presentation on that. Kelsey Clymer, our Senior Manager of Resident Services, who's been working on this for quite a while.
Hello. Good morning. Okay, so an RFP was sent for the short-range transit plan update on March 2nd to evaluate Rossmore's transportation system and get recommendations for future system changes and long-term transit planning. We received 2 proposals from Via Mobility and Fair & Peers, and based on these evaluations, Fair & Peers was identified as the recommended consultant. Fair & Peers completed Rossmore's 2018 SRTP, so they already know our system, our community, and they can efficiently evaluate the current conditions and our future needs. The Fair & Peers proposal includes a thorough review of the current transit service, including ridership trends, post-pandemic travel patterns, our changing service demand, and options for future services, including fixed route, on-demand, hybrid model, and assessment of operational considerations, including staffing, fleet, dispatch technology, and the associated costs. Their community outreach will be a key part of the process, and to understand the current service usage, identify unmet needs, and gather feedback on the future services. Fair & Peers presented their proposal at a total cost of $80,000. So we are recommending that the board authorize the general managers to execute a service agreement with Fair & Peers to complete this SRTP to update, to authorize Fair & Peers to update the SRTP in an amount not to exceed $80,000 to be paid from the capital fund.
Thank you, Kelsey. Are there questions for Kelsey on this? Go ahead, Nan.
I was just wondering if the look forward will talk about automated transport not involving real drivers.
So we will definitely look at that in terms of alternatives and what that means in the future. They will also look at our partnerships with CCTA and grant opportunities that they may be seeking that could benefit the community as well. One of the benefits about Fair and Pierce is they have done the countywide transit plan, have worked with CCTA pretty extensively, so they're familiar with their inner workings and how that kind of partnership may bring resources to Rossmore in terms of looking at autonomous shuttles and so forth.
Any other questions on this? Yes, go ahead, Sarah.
It was stated earlier that this transit study wouldn't be completed before the end of the year. And I'm concerned about the immediate situation because as I talked to people when I was campaigning, I met a lot of people who, were like, we need transportation on the weekend, we're stuck in our homes. And so I'm wondering if there's any possibility of some kind of interim situation that, like we had last year with the Rossmore Fund.
So we do have significant service that we operate Monday through Friday. And then on the weekends, there's still the Go-Go Grandparent program that people can utilize that provides a subsidy to the Uber Lyft program. And then there are some various outside resources that provide service to the community. In terms of expanding our existing service to cover weekends or evening hours, our main challenge and why we have curtailed that has not been a desire to save money or just cut back the service, but one of the things that we need to address in the short-range transit plan is staffing and our ability to actually cover additional hours with our staff that we have currently. Recruitment and retention of bus drivers is an extreme challenge where we are advertising continuously and we just do not have the resources to cover additional hours on the weekends to expand service. So we need to address that as part of the plan. But right now, the service includes Monday through Friday and includes the Go-Go Grandparent opportunity on the weekends.
Go ahead, Adrian.
However, if we are advertising for additional bus drivers, is that correct?
We have been for about 4 years straight.
Yeah. If we were to recruit such people, would we open up the weekend service?
Not at this time, until kind of the results of this study come to pass. Our allocation of staffing that we have provided in the budget has been reduced by a position. And until we have ongoing stability, I wouldn't recommend opening up additional service, because the one thing we did for a while and we don't want to continue to do is now we have it, 2 weeks later, now we don't, then we do. So I think we need a permanent solution that would be a result of the study.
Leanne, did you have a question? Leanne and then Roy.
Just a comment to address Sarah's concern that the issues you heard about during your campaign. About 4 to 6 months ago, Kelsey did a very good transportation presentation, and I think there was a follow-up article in the Rossmore News, which was very informative. Could we repeat that for resident information?
Was that all the additional services throughout the valley? Yes, so we have other services throughout. So the Companions Club also offers services through their club. We have our Go-Go Grandparents, and there are additional services through the City of Walnut Creek. They have the Lyft Concierge and the Lyft Pass program that they receive funding through, that they'll open up new applications in June that as residents of Walnut Creek, Rossmore residents can apply to join that program as well, beginning June, July.
Yeah, that was a great article, so maybe we could look at.
Mm-hmm. Roy, go ahead.
My question is, the traffic study, does it including the parking situation we have here? Like a event center or gateway?
So the scope of the study does not include any traffic engineering or evaluation of parking lot layouts, but what it will take into consideration is shuttle service provided within the valley and how people move and can move to and from various locations and events, but it's not designed and not in the scope to actually look at the layout of any particular parking lot.
Okay, any other questions?
One more.
Okay, go ahead, Leanne.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that I was really impressed with the company's description in their proposal about community outreach. Not only are they going to talk to or survey ridership, but they're going to ask all of us how we feel we'll be using the transit and what our needs are. And I thought that was very complete. So I want to just say that out loud, that I hope residents follow that and participate in that when they're implemented.
And I'd just like to add that the Berkeley Fellows from the KPI Task Force, Key Performance Indicator Task Force, did some work on transportation and proposed a number of key performance indicators that we really want to make sure our consultants have the opportunity to take a look at. So if we have no other questions on this, could I have a motion to approve the recommendation for the selection?
I would like to move that we, that the RWC Board, let's see how we're going to state this.
Authorize the general
Let's see. That we,
How about authorize the general manager to execute a professional services agreement with Fair and Piers for the completion of the short-range transit plan update for an amount not to exceed $80,000 to be paid from the capital fund?
that's exactly what I said.
I'll second that.
Okay, Janet seconds that. Any further questions? Okay, let's have a roll call.
Certainly. Hildreth?
Yes?
Bentley?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hamaji?
Yes?
Spence? Yes. Ruvalo?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Yang?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Well, thank you, and we're really looking forward to working on that report, seeing the outcomes, hearing all the community outreach, and it's time to get that done. So let's move on to our the item where we're adopting a resolution to reappoint Adrian Byram to our 401k plan committee, and I'll ask Deborah Rose to tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, so each year in the month of May at the organizational meeting of the board, there are new officers who are appointed or elected. And this year again, Adrian Byram was elected as treasurer. The charter of the Retirement Plans Committee states that the committee shall consist of one director, the CFO, and up to 2 additional employees. Currently, the committee includes the RWC treasurer, the CFO, an internal manager, and the director of human resources. So the recommendation today is to reappoint Adrian, the treasurer, to this committee, the 401k plan committee, and to designate him as trustee of the 401k plan.
Okay, let's see if we have any questions on that. Any questions? Okay, could we have a motion?
Yes. I move that we adopt a resolution to reappoint Adrian Byram to the 401k plan committee and designate him as a trustee of the 401k plan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ted seconds. Thank you, Ted. Could we have a roll call on that, Deborah?
Certainly. Hildreth?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hamaji?
Yes?
Spence?
Yes.
Ruvalo?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Yang?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Adrian wears many hats, as we shall see. So also, Deborah, would you please review with the board representative and board committee appointments for 1-year terms effective immediately that has been recommended by myself, the president?
Absolutely. So there are ex officio members to the resident advisory committees like Aquatics and Fitness Advisory, Audit, Finance, and Golf Advisory Committees, which the board members are chosen by the RWC Board President as listed in the agenda packet. Also, the committee composition for compensation, mutual liaison, planning, and policy composition as listed in the packet. These appointments are for one-year terms effective immediately, and that's what we're requesting.
Could we make a clarification, Deborah, that in terms of the listing in the packet, the first name that's listed by each committee name serves as the chair?
Honestly, the composition is randomly placed, so if you want to make a separate announcement
no.
of your chair
No,
appointments.
that's fine.
Okay.
Just wanted to clarify that.
No.
So do we have any discussion regarding this? Leanne, did you have a question?
I was just going to make a motion.
Any questions? Okay, can we have a motion?
I move that the board approve, as recommended by the president, the board representatives and board committee appointments listed in the board packet for one-year terms effective immediately.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Nan, okay, thank you for seconding that. Any further discussion? Okay, could we have a roll call on that, please?
Absolutely. Hildreth?
Yes.
Bentley?
Yes.
Selden?
Yes.
Byram?
Yes.
Hamachi?
Yes.
Spence?
Yes.
Ruvalo?
Yes.
Warren?
Yes.
And Yang?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Look forward to working with all our new committees.
If we could also have an announcement of the chairs.
Oh, is that what it is? I'm
placement?
sorry. Please go ahead.
Okay, so the board president appoints the following committee chairs.
There it is.
Susan Hildreth on Compensation Committee, Janet Selden for the Planning Committee, and Nace Ruvalo for the Policy Committee. And that is included in the charters. There is no vote from the board. That concludes.
Thank you so much, Deborah. Deborah is so helpful in this role as the new president in clarifying what's happening. Thank you very much. So we'll go on to our announcements. There will not be a mid-month meeting in the month of June. The end of the month regular meeting of the board will be held on Thursday, June 25th at 9 a.m. in Peacock Hall here in Gateway Complex and via Zoom webinar. So I think at this time we can close the meeting today at 11:11 a.m. And thanks for our first meeting of this new board. We did a great job, I think. Thank you very much.